Hello, this is Taha.
This is Anaina,
This is Movie Masala.
and we're here to yap at you about films we watched recently.
And today we're doing.
Ella Enchanted.
Sorry about that. Occupational hazard. Allow me.
Don't need your chivalry, thanks. And I've no intention of curtsying either, so forget it.
Well, you can curtsy or not. That's your choice. There's really nothing I can do about it, except for have you beheaded. But that seems a bit extreme.
Charming. Why don't you do what your people usually do? Steal my land and destroy my livelihood. Now,
So I know what people who listen to this are going. Anaina's lost it. Anaina cannot watch any new films. This is true somewhat. Also, some might think Anaina has lost it because why would you watch a film from so long ago for no apparent reason? And the apparent reason is why not? And also, Ella Enchanted has now become a cult classic, and I was shamed for not having watched it. So here I am, yapping about it.
Fair enough. That's always a good reason. Shame.
Exactly, yeah. And can I just say, I'm glad I watched it. So basically, Ella Enchanted is a 2004 film directed by Tommy O'Haver based off of a book of the same name by Gail Carson Levy. Now, it's a kind of comedic fantasy film where the main character, Ella, is played by Anne Hathaway. And she basically has the gift of obedience. When she was born, she was gifted or cursed by her godmother, Lucinda, to basically do whatever she was told. Which, you can tell why it can be a gift and a curse. And basically the film follows her when she's a grown-up, like years later. And like the trials and tribulations of doing everything you're told or being given such a gift or a curse and, living in the current world and people can take advantage of that, blah, 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 blah. Anyway.
Yeah, when you say that plot, I'm like, this sounds like pornography.
They make fun of that. They do make fun of that. However, I'm getting to that. Basically, this film is like an amalgamation of every fairy tale ever. It has Cinderella. It has Sleeping Beauty. It has Snow White. It has the fantastical elements of a fairy tale. And it's very aware of the fact that it is a fairy tale. It says that on multiple occasions that it is a fairy tale, which I think, a lot of the times we credit some newer films with like being self-aware of the fact that they are of the genre that they are of. But you know what? We've been doing this since 2004. And I'm glad to see that this film kind of does it in a much better way than some of the recent kind of jukebox musically fantasy fairy tale films do. I'm thinking of the Cinderella starring Camila Cabello, which in nice words, god-awful.
I forgot that existed.
Yeah. So basically, it follows a similar, like, I think Cinderella, the newer one was, the Camila Cabello one, was modeled off of Ella Enchanted, which makes sense because of the kind of cult following this film has gotten. And basically, to go back to the plot, we see Ella's early life, her being cursed with this gift, and then we see her, as is in Cinderella, having a stepmother and two stepsisters move in. And then instead of the stepsisters kind of turning her into their like household servant or whatever, they slowly find out that she does everything you listen to, and they start taking advantage of that, especially the older one.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, but Ella herself is kind of like a really strong, independent person who has her own thoughts and opinions, but, can't help doing what she's told. And then she meets the prince of this kingdom. The kingdom's called Lamia, by the way. The prince of this kingdom, who is called Char. His name is Char, and it is played by Hugh Dancy. And basically, they kind of meet, and he is attracted to her, and he likes her, and they keep meeting, and it's kind of like an enemy situation where she's like, I don't need to be protected, blah, 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 blah. The plot moves along because Ella is trying to find her godmother, Lucinda, who cursed her so she can take the curse back, so she can be free from the hell that is having to do whatever she is told. And through this, she kind of makes a bunch of friends and falls in love with Char.
Okay.
Basic, simple. What makes this film so interesting? It has real world stakes. It talks about segregation. It talks about consent. It talks about like
Consent did not exist in 2004.
It talks about, false quote unquote democracies. It talks about interracial love. Um,
Okay.
and all of this is done through the simple fact that Lamia is a kingdom that has humans, as well as fairies, as well as elves, as well as ogres. And Char's uncle basically introduced a law that segregates elves and ogres and giants from the humans and the fairies and basically makes them second class citizens and forces them to do specific jobs. As in, elves are only allowed to sing and dance and entertain. Giants are literally portrayed as enslaved people working the fields.
What is the social commentary? I did not like. Again, I'm not opposed to it.
Right?
I am just incredibly surprised.
Exactly. That was my reaction as well. I was like, I did not expect this to be a film about segregation. But you know what? I'm here for it because Ella is a strong proponent for abolishing the segregation, for equality, and fights for those things till the very end.
Good for
And
her.
I'm like, this is brilliant. This is amazing. And through these like plot points and like character details, they kind of do have a lot of social commentary, which I'm grateful for. There's like a lot of class commentary with a lot of characters being poorer than the others, and like Ella coming from a poorer background than Char, the prince. Ella telling the prince, you have power, you are worthy of this, you can do this. Why the fuck are you not? Why are you letting your uncle do all of this?
Yes.
It's just exactly so like it's really interesting as well. It's not just a fun flimsy fantasy film that loosely talks about all these things. Like these issues are like deeply rooted in the way the film kind of takes place and like kind of picks off. And obviously the solutions to these are an easy fix. We're not living in the real world. We are in the fantasy world. But like I said, the film establishes it at the very beginning. The narrator says, I am taking you to the fantasy land, magical kingdom. And at the end of the film, the narrator says, okay, now you must leave this magical kingdom, as I say at the end. So I think it's self-awareness of the fact that it is a fantasy film, but also its ability to really smoothly incorporate like real world problems is great. Also, it kind of shows that humans are shit everywhere.
I fully see what you mean by this, in that way, not exactly, but it kind of feels like in that post-Shrek era, right? Shrek came out in 2001, this came out in 2004, where you're breaking down the Disney fairy tale thing. And I forgot who wrote this theory, but there's a theory of genres where like genres go through cycles where like you have a reinvention, then like it becomes mainstream, then it becomes like deconstructed, then it goes into parody, and then it reinvents itself. And it's in that stage, right, where it's all going through. So like again, Shrek also has a lot of like, if you look into it, has that like political element to it, where it is making fun of a lot of those things, right? Or at least it's very much satirizing Disney. So I can see this taking it step further, adding more social commentary with like fairy tales.
For sure. This also, I think, falls really well into the parody section of those films, which makes sense why it tanked when it released. Also, Anne Hathaway's star power was barely anything when this released.
He looks like a child. I cannot, like, it's so weird for me to see Anne Hathaway as a child.
She was 22. She was 22 when they did this film. Before this, she'd done The Princess Diaries and The Devil Wears Prada. And while at the same year that this released, she did The Princess Diaries too. That's it. That was her entire filmography at this point.
That's a credible film. That's still like one of her most like popular films.
Exactly. Which again is a surprise why this film tanked. But then I'm like, maybe people in 2004 weren't ready for this, because in 2025, the number of people I have seen who absolutely fawn over this film, as they should, is great. I mean, I think it really cemented Anne Hathaway's like ability to act and even sing. She sings some of her own songs because, like I said, this is a jukebox musical, which means that it has like actual songs that are then sung by like the characters of the film. Actual songs in the sense that songs that exist in our world. It has a Kelly Clarkson song. actually Kelly Clarkson doing a cover of a song. It has a great kind of soundtrack. Anne Hathaway is
Mhm.
fabulous, good dancer, good singer, brilliant. Has an Irish elf character, which I think is just.
Okay.
And yeah, I think all in all, it's really fun. It's great. And I'm not going to tell people to watch it because people already watch it. I'm just going to tell people to go back to it when they need a fun little, of what a good fairy tale looks like. Because I think we need to be making more fairy tales into parodies, or rather making more self-aware fairy tales, especially in the current climate we're living.
Reinventing them in some senses. Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, talking about that cycle you were talking about, I think we need to go into the parody and then reinvention stage, because I would love to see more of that, but not the way Cinderella did it. No.
Fair enough. I think it's also like this has like Karen McCullough and Kristen Smith as writers who've written other really, really popular rom-coms like 10 Things I Hate About You, Legally Blonde, and She's the Man.
Yeah, exactly. So I initially started watching this one thinking it was a rom-com, and then once I watched it, I was like, no, it's a disservice to call this a rom-com. It is a fantasy fairy tale, and we need to stop it at that. Rom-coms are different. Leave rom-coms alone. Leave
Yeah, it
fantasy
would be
fairy
like
tales
calling
alone.
Barbie a rom-com.
Exactly. But yeah, I just wanted to throw it back and, tell people now to, especially Disney now, or maybe not Disney. You know what? Let Disney run themselves to the ground with their own, remake, live action remake retakes. I need A24 to give me a fantasy fairy tale because I know that will slap.
Yes. So those are our thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast is produced solely by us with musical assets from Pixabay. If you enjoyed this, please do share. See you again next time.
Bye bye.